Okay, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. We have a Facebook page. David H, myself, Melissa H, my wife, husband and wife, trucking across America. That's on Facebook. I also got Instagram at David H6571. Hey, stop in, say hey, why not? Why not? It don't cost you nothing. All right, so we just finished orientation. I got a trainer. I talked to him on the phone. Doesn't say a bunch of things I'm happy with, but hey, what are you gonna do? You know, he's talking about how if you do this, it's gonna cost you this, and I'm gonna charge you. So that's not what we're here for. We're here for the nitty gritty, the cream of the crop. You guys want to know how bad I was tortured in? Training, because you know you've heard me talk about it in the past here and there. I'm sorry, my camera's falling over. Here and there, so on and so forth. Okay, so I meet the trainer. We do no pad training. We don't do anything like you're supposed to. You're supposed to do a 4-hour on the pad deal before your trainer takes you out. Now, he meets me. He calls me, or I'm supposed to call him. But he's not answering his phone. Nope, strike that. He's supposed to call me and tell me when he's on the way, half hour before he gets there. But he doesn't call, so I try calling him. There's no answers or anything, so I'm just sitting around the terminal. Finally, he walks in. Hey, I'm so-and-so. Great. Drags me outside. He's parked on the street. He says, yeah, we're not sticking around here. Let's jump in the truck and go. So we move on. We shut down for the day. We were heading to Oakland, and he told me that there would be no driving until I know my pre-trip 100%. Okay, whatever. Hold on, let me fix this light. All right, hopefully that light's better. So anyways, he's, yeah, you're not driving until you know your pre-trip 100%. So we stop. I jump out. I do the pre-trip 100%, end-to-end, air brakes, everything. He says, okay, good. That was great. You know it. I said, yeah, except I missed one thing. Do you know what I missed? That's probably not the smartest thing to tell a trainer. Did you pick up on what I missed? But I did anyways. I'm not the brightest bulb in the pack. So he's like, no, you didn't miss any. And I went over and I finally showed him that, yeah, I missed torque arm on the driver's side fuel door area. So we did our thing, went and showered, jumped in the, went to bed, got in the truck next morning, barreled ass to Oakland. And you know what? This should have been a red flag number 55. We get there and he pulls into this little side street area and stops, and he's kind of confused looking and doing some stuff. And he's like, oh, I see. And mind you, we're pressed for time. He's running out of time to get this load there. Well, he followed his GPS. One of the things that you're going to hear me talk about is follow the GPS. Follow the GPS. That was his thing. So he followed the GPS, and it took him to the wrong place. He ended up going through some side street, really tight and narrow, and got around. Actually, we went in that circle twice for some reason, but oh well. And he figured out where it was. We jumped back up on the interstate, drove to the right place, got there, and it was a really tight place. He struggled, couldn't get it in the door they wanted him to put it in, so he put it into a different door that he accidentally was just lined up with. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is some tight place. This is some tough stuff. Do I really want to do trucking? I'm the first thing out of the hole. It's my trainer can't even get it backed in. And then sitting there, I started noticing that, well, other trucks are doing it. Somebody just took that spot that he couldn't. So, I'm not saying he was a bad backer or anything. He was pretty good. It's just, sometimes people just don't have an off day or whatever, and he wasn't getting it in the hole. So that was our first load together. We ended up sleeping in the center medium outside that place. He drove around afterwards looking for somewhere to park in Oakland. There was just nowhere to park. So he parked where we staged. We were staged in that center turn lane. So he just parked there. We went to bed, so on and so forth. That was it. Wake up the next day. First day I'm going to drive a truck. It was awesome. We drove, went ahead and I drove it to some mom and pop fuel station that was closed, and some bums came up and said, hey, blah, 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 blah. but that wasn't a big deal. So let's move forward. Let's see if we can't remember nightmare number 1 or problem number 1. During PSD, things weren't too bad. I know during PSD I got into a freeway closed with a detour that sent us off the freeway, and it was confusing the hell out of me because his GPS was really loud and it kept telling me, you know, turn left here, turn right here, and I'm like, wait, do you want me to follow the GPS or do you want me to follow this detour? What the hell? And he says, no, follow the detour. It's like, well, can you turn that fucking GPS off? I mean, it was just screaming over and over, turn around, turn around, turn around. So that was really nerve-wracking. That was like a pretty exciting moment in trucking. And this story, guys, this story is not, it's not just a story. It's let you hear, if you're thinking about coming to trucking, some of the things you might run into. Also, some of the things you might want to watch out for a trainer and stay away from and run from. So, we get out of there. We go pick up our first load. Ice cream. Of course, he ran out of his 70-hour clock right after we picked that up. And 3 days into my trucking career, we're over in Denver doing a 34-hour reset. Now, barely getting to know the guy, driving over to Denver. He said, hey, you can run 57, 58 mile an hour. Okay, cool. Didn't really tell me what any of the knobs or switches or anything in the truck were. I was just figuring things out. I'm driving and I'm watching the speedometer and I'm trying to figure out where to get it to 57, 58 mile an hour, because normally cruise controls, you turn them on and set them and they tell you what they're setting at. This one didn't. So we're driving through up past through Vale somewhere, and we're going, and he turns and goes, why are you doing 60 miles an hour? And he sits and tells me how he can see the truck's recording everything and he can see whatever I was doing and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to keep the thing at 57, 58. It's hard. It goes fast, da-da-da. And then on those old 2017s, they had a box that was mounted on the dash, and it had the speed you were set at and how far the car in front of you was and all this stuff over on the right-hand side by the radio. I didn't know that. Like I said, I was never given any instructions on what's inside this truck. So first he said, it's on the dash, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, where on the dash? And he's pointing on the dash. Well, we've got these little buttons that you press to unlock the truck so you can start it. Well, they mounted on those old trucks right above the steering wheel on the dash. His was broke and hanging, and it was hanging right in front of where it tells you what the what the cruise control is set at. So how am I supposed to know? But then he showed me on that box over there, it says it there also. So once we got that going, I'm like, okay, cool, man. It's all good. I apologize for doing 60. Didn't mean to scare you. But if I don't know and I'm trying to do the speedo, what am I supposed to do? So we get over that little bit of a issue there. And same trip, I'm complaining to him about our fuel light being on. We're going up and down the mountains over there over in Vale, and the fuel light's coming on. I'm like, dude. And he's like, no, it's fine. You get 120. So I wasn't happy about that, but we finally get into Denver, shut down, gonna do a 34. I heard him arguing with dispatch over it for a minute. I don't know what the deal was, but I was only getting the one-sided on the thing. So I don't know what was going on there. I know he wasn't happy because it was a good paying load. And that night, that someone was going to come the next morning. That or they came then. I can't remember when, but anyhow, he's like, well, you know what? We might as well just go get steaks. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking, oh, there's a steakhouse or something over there. He was gonna get an Uber and go to. He's like, well, do you want to go? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. He goes, all right, well, if you want to go, you'll pay the Uber there, I'll pay the Uber back, or vice versa. And I'm thinking to myself, now, I shouldn't think any way other than whatever, but I'm broke as hell in PSD. I'm not being paid. I'm borrowing $200 a week from Prime to survive. I should not be going to any steakhouse. So I'm thinking, man, maybe I can get a couple bucks and get me a steak. I haven't had steak in a minute. That'd be good. And then when he threw out, yeah, it's going to be like 18 bucks or something like that for the Uber ride. So I'm thinking, oh, geez, 18 bucks, but no. I said, nah, man, I just can't afford it. I'm going to just go ahead and stay here. Which is fine, you know. That's fine and dandy. Now, myself, if I was going to do that, I would have said, hey, you know, here, let me hook you up. But that's just myself. Now, he wasn't financially in trouble. If you're thinking, well, maybe he couldn't afford it. No, he was doing good. But that was the first thing on. Oh, that's kind of cold. Even though it's I shouldn't have any feelings anyway about it, other than it makes you think the type of person that you're dealing with. You know, we didn't know each other, but for about 3-4 days now. Me personally, even if I only knew him for a day, I would have been, well, if I would have offered and he said, look, I can't afford it, I'm not making any pay, I just, well, come on, let me, I'll take care of you. Or I would have just not have went and, you know, told him, hey, because yeah, why are you going to dangle steak? So he goes and does the steak thing, comes back, and oh my God, he's got this big chunk of meat and potato left over. It smelled so good. Me, I went into the TA and I got a whatever special they were having. I think it was soup and salad special. I got that and did my thing. So then the next day, or I can't remember if it was next day or that day, when we got repowered, he high hooked the trailer when he was hooking up to the empty. And I had read somewhere, or YouTube or whatever, that when you high hook, take a water bottle, you know, your fifth wheel is flat. You know, you're coming in with it's like this. You come in with your trailer, and it comes up, it goes flat, and you lock in your kingpin. Okay? Well, high hook means your fifth wheel's like that. Your kingpin's coming, but it's too high, and it went over the top of the fifth wheel, and now when you're trying to back up, you know, because it hit it, leveled out, and then flopped back, and now it's locked in. So I read you take and put a water bottle under the fifth wheel to level it off, and you can back out. Also on our trucks, we've got dropped airbags, so you could have dropped the airbag and lowered it and got it out. But instead, you know, when he did it, I felt boom, and I looked in the mirror, and it looked like we were collided into the reefer with the sleeper. So he's like, damn it. And I said, he jumped out and he came back in to do something. And I went to say something. I went, and he, don't you say a damn word. I was like, oh, God. I mean, scared the hell out of me. He was so pissed. But don't you say a damn word. And which was, I didn't know him yet. But trying to give this guy any kind of advice, you might as well be shooting his dog or something. So I sat there and he fought with it back there, struggled and did his thing, wound the trailer up higher so he can get, because, you know, if he'd have used his brains, he would have just lowered the airbags, put something there if needed be. Usually lowering the airbags will do it. But he got it hooked up, and, you know, we didn't kind of say anything for the rest of the night. It was just like, that better just be hush. So, yeah, that was like, I think that was my first 3 or 4 days, 5 days in training. That was PSD training, though. We haven't went TNT. Yeah, this was PSD. All right, so we're talking about the PSD training. We just got where he high hooked the trailer. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit because I don't know if I said this. I'll edit it out if I did. To get to that point in Denver where he high hooked, we went through the Colorado mountains, Vail, and all that good stuff. It was my first time driving, and he immediately wanted to take me to Vail to see if I knew how to, you know, learn how to manage the truck over hills, which is, I agree, okay. You got to learn that. That's 100%. Well, one of the things I didn't like is we were running really low on fuel in the middle of that, and I was pretty nervous about that. And, you know, I don't think he should have let us run to our red light on. But he kept insisting it still had 125 miles left on it. And, you know, we were like 50 miles away from a station. I was nervous because I thought if we ran out of fuel going down one of those hills, we are not going to have Jake brakes. Well, I was told that, yeah, you'd still have Jake brakes. I don't know if you would or not. I don't want to try it, but it's a compression thing, so I guess, yeah, the engine would still be turning because it's in gear, unless it went into new, you know, who knows. Anyways, okay, let's move on. So we continue on and continue on the load. And this is PSD still. Not much happened in PSD that was weird during the actual driving. What did happen is when we came back in to test out, he had me practice on the pad. He told me to do every maneuver 5 times, and if you mess up, you got to do it 5 more times. Well, he whipped out a lounge chair, went and sat down, and he was on his phone, Facebook and all that while I was doing it. He left it up to me to do. He never said anything about reference points, which is fine. I didn't need the reference points. I was able to do real world backing. Now, driving with him during PSD, I think I backed a couple of times into a spot, and then we practiced one time. And the practice he did, he put 2 water bottles down at the edge of the lines and said, you got to get it without hitting those bottles. I couldn't do it. There was trucks across the way, and I just couldn't make the swing. So he finally said, all right, let me show you how to do it. And after he tried 3 or 4 times, he said, yeah, you're right, there ain't enough room here. And we moved to another spot, and I did it. So we get back to the terminal, and I do my practicing thing. I get it all. Say, okay, fine. I go in that day, or I think it was the next morning, because I think we came in 2 days early. The next morning, I was in the cafeteria there, or the lounge. They didn't have a cafeteria back then at Salt Lake. And one of the pad trainers came in, and mind you, I don't know if pad trainers are bosses or what they are, but this was just a driver who was doing pad training for a while before she got back on the road. Well, students or people that were in orientation with me were asking her questions and whatnot, and she was talking about hitting curbs, that if you touch a curb, you're automatically failed. Okay. And then she says, well, you also can't do button hooks and da-da-da-da. You can't go into the lane over. You got to just stay in that right lane and make that turn. So I'm thinking, what the hell? There ain't no way I'm going to make it. Maybe they have big, wide turns. And so I asked her, I said, well, are these turns doable? She goes, yeah, they're doable. She goes, they're just, there's going to be some tough ones. So what I ended up doing is when my trainer came back from whatever he was doing later that day, I asked him, hey, can we go do some city driving training? Because I really hadn't driven in the city but like once or twice, other than going to shippers and receivers, which were right off the interstates. And he goes, why? I said, well, I asked so-and-so, and she said that we can't do button hooks or go out and go in the other lane or anything like that. And if you hit the curb, it's an automatic fail. Oh, look, their flag's at half staff. I wonder why. And what happened next was shocking. He started swearing and cussing and, fine, I'm done with you. If you want her to train you, let you go out with her, blah, blah. I mean, he was pissed off like a fucking psychopath. I mean, just screaming and yelling. And I remember, come on, man. I can't remember. He was calling me names at that point. So I just kept telling him to quit crying. And he literally threatened me. He's all, I can't remember the exact words he used, but I'm going to kick your ass or something like that. And I should at that point, okay, let's do it. I'll like watching you get fired. But, I mean, he was getting violent and whatnot, and I was still talking crap to him, man, just, quit being a baby, blah, 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 blah. And he just freaked out, and there was another trainer there that he was talking to, so they went outside, and they were talking, and blah, blah. I finally went out, and I said, so what? I mean, what's going on? And I don't want to deal with you, yada, yada, yada. So I just went back to the hotel room. Or I stayed in the truck. Yeah, I stayed in the truck. I didn't get a hotel room. I didn't know you could. He never told me I could while I was there training. So I went back to the truck, woke up the next day, and kind of, I knew we weren't going to go doing any driving after that. And so I asked him, I said, well, can we do more pad training? Do you need it? I would like to have it. I would like to do more. And so we ended up doing some more pad training. He was pissed off the whole time the rest of that day. I did a little bit of more pad training and then got up the next morning and tested out. Trifected, but on my backing skills test, you can get 12 points. I got 11 points. I nailed every backing except the straight line back. Now, before you guys go, huh? My trainer taught me to do the straight line back as, pull up to this line, back up till you get to the other side of the line, blow your horn, you're good. Well, what you're supposed to do is you get to that line, you back up, you back completely through the pad and blow your horn. My trainer said, hey, they've never done that before. So I got 11 points. It was not stopping in the right location. There was just a bunch of little things by not backing through that they gave you points on. So the instructor, the examiner, after we were done with that and he got in the truck and said, okay, we're going to do the road test, he goes, you got 11 points on that. And he goes, well, do you know why? And it dawned on me after I screwed up and I seen the look on his face when I blew the horn, like, are you an idiot? I remembered him saying, and I was so nervous, we said, okay, you're going to back up. I thought he said, you're going to back up and then stop here, and then I'll tell you when you back all the way through. But he basically said, back up, stop there, and then back all the way through. That's why I blew the horn too soon and then whatnot. So luckily, I didn't get any points on anything else. I ended up trifecting. And at that point, I didn't know what was going on with my trainer because I heard through the grapevine he was kicking me off the truck, and I was fine with that, so on and so forth. I was bummed because I was going to have to wait for a TNT trainer now, which at that time, there's something that went down where trainers were scarce because there was some crap they were doing. I can't remember. So I'm like bumming when I got out of the truck and the examiner told him that I trifected. I just made him $875, and I was supposed to get a steak out of it, which I never did. He's like, cool, and he asked me, oh, so are you going to stay on the truck? Okay, am I going to stay on the truck? Yeah. So, at that point, I went in, got my CDL, and got hired on to Prime, so on and so forth, and I was going to fly back. Actually, we were going to get a load to California because I had to change my license to California. I lived in California back then. And he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to. There was a good load that was up and going to Kansas or something like that. And he's like, no, I'll just fly you to California and then I'll run and I'll pick you up. So it was, the plane ticket was like $200. So I guess I got the plane ticket instead of dinner, instead of a steak, which was bummed because I hear that place was really good. So I flew home, did my stuff, and I ended up waiting for him. What was it, a week? 2 weeks? I think it would have been more than 2 weeks because he went, or no, it was supposed to be 2 weeks, but he didn't get that meat load that he thought he was going to get, and they sent him right to California anyways. Duh. So he did take a while because he told them how to load his truck. He was picking up produce, and he told them how to load the truck, and they couldn't fit all the produce on. So they wanted to charge him. They charged him like $85 to take the stuff and reload it, but they wouldn't do it that day. They made him wait till the next day. So he finally shows up, and I get in the truck, and no tension. There was like nothing ever happened. I think the guy was bipolar. And he sat up with me because now it's TNT. He can sleep, I can drive, do my thing. He was a little, he was like, okay, well, I'm going to sit up with you until you get to the interstate, which was like 30 miles. You had to take the 138 all the way to the 15. And I lived right there at the Parablossom Highway and the 138, or, whatever they called it, Palmdale Boulevard, I think is part of it. And I told him as we were going, I was like, dude, you don't really need to stay up. I'm really familiar with this highway. I drive it all the time going, when we'd go horseback riding, camping and stuff. I said, there is construction up there and it is going to get tight, but I know it. So he said, cool, and he went to bed. And I drove us. I remember it was the first time I stopped at a truck stop by myself. It was at State Line. I thought that was so cool. But, okay, so now we're in TNT. We are going to make a whole new video for TNT because that's where a lot of stuff went down. A lot of stuff. So stay tuned for the next video. Hope you guys enjoy these videos. Like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell.
And these videos, I'm kind of just letting you guys know what my experience was. Hopefully you don't have that experience. Don't let your trainer